soon and now. All right, we're joined today by Dr. Pope. Now, as we said with Roger, Matt goes by Grand Potentate, world ruler, and master
I ask
of all.
very little of people. Very little.
So is it okay, just to keep Matt happy, if we don't say Dr. Pope, but rather just go with Maggie and Matt? Are you guys going to be okay with that? Or we have to pull out the big guns?
No, I would love just being Maggie. That works for me.
All right, I'll settle.
Okay, yeah. Well, as long as you're settling, I'm happy, Matt. As long as Matt's settling, I'm good to go. But we're here today with Maggie Pope, Dr. Pope. She is the Associate Director of Worldview Education at Summit Ministries. Now, she is the direct peer of Dr. Erdvig, who we had a wonderful conversation with, and that was maybe 10 podcasts or so ago at this time. So we were happy to have him. And one of the things that he said was, you've got to talk to Maggie. You've got to make sure you talk to Maggie. I will waive my fee for coming on this show if you talk to Maggie. And so here we are. We're talking to Maggie tonight. No, but we were excited.
I had to pay him a lot of money for that, by the way.
Yeah, right? Man. So, and to be clear, Matt is trying. I'm going to be more the voice this evening because Matt is having some voice trouble. And usually we get to hear those sultry notes stemming from that microphone, but today it'll be more limited and lower in key.
Yeah, we'll keep it to the low hum. Yeah.
That sounds horrible. It's okay. We're going to keep going, though. We're just going to keep going.
I mean, I can think of a couple other podcasters that kind of sound like this that have made a pretty good go of it. But
yeah, it's a vibe.
I'll try to keep us out of it.
It's a whole thing. All right. Okay, so Maggie, we are talking to Christian school principals. Those are the ones we want to be with. Those are the ones we get to know and build a community with. So Maggie, could you walk us through your time as a Christian school administrator?
Sure, absolutely. I spent, I would say I think it's about 4 years as a high school administrator and 4 years as an associate head of school for academics, where I got to work very closely with our 3 principals in the pre-K school that I just finished my service with. But my undergrad was actually in elementary education. I taught for 7 years. Then I spent 3 years in middle school. So when I was asked to kind of consider the high school principal role, I was definitely feeling like I was walking into uncharted territory. But I learned so much.
That is a jump. That is a jump. Yeah.
It is a jump. But it was a lot of fun. And I really got to tune into some areas of school culture, especially in Christian schools, that you don't typically get when you're in elementary or middle school. So I really learned a lot, and I was a principal during COVID. So I feel like that adds like 3 or 4 years to the experience, doesn't it?
No, we're just a band of brothers. Well, I mean, I was only on the back side of it. Matt was through it. Matt was beginning to end. I was picking my nose on the sideline at one point, but I got in on the back side of it. But there is that's forged right there. That's friendship forged. It has to be. Yeah. Now tell us, where was your school you were serving? What region at least?
I actually served at a school just outside of the Tampa Bay area, kind of on the outskirts. So cool. Middle-sized school, about 900 kids.
I was gonna say, now I get into this with a lot of my students, especially in grad courses, like, I'm in a small school in Texas. I'm like, okay, that's a lot different than what I would call a small school. So let's keep the relatives at no. Middle-sized school is 900. What would you say a small school is?
You know what? You're right. You bring up a good point, because I think down here, Christian schools, there's so many of them. We have a lot of them. So we're really middle of the road-ish, because you've got them up in the 1200s. Yeah. But then I have done some travel with my job at Summit to the Northeast regions, and they're like, well, we've got, 2 schools within a 300-mile radius. So I'm learning. I need to temper my language a little bit.
Oh no. And I don't mean to make you feel bad. It just comes. I just have these flashbacks to I'm preparing research design questions with 600 students. And I'm saying you can't say small, because that's extremely relative to where you are right now, and it's not. It's not where everybody else is.
Coming from where we are, our kids will say, I've got a big class. We've got 8 kids in our class. Oh, it's huge. It's a massive class.
Absolutely.
Like, well, okay.
Well, could you give us just memory, a high, I mean, we'll say low is COVID. We'll just say maybe you were stronger with
Wow.
COVID. Maybe you
Yeah.
got, maybe you were, that was one of your highs. But is there a core memory you'll pull back of that time and say it was beautiful because of this from that
Mm,
time, specifically being in either the principal role or that assistant head of school role?
mhm. Well, with the highs, I think I could categorize them a little bit better than pick out one in particular point, but I
Okay.
just think the relationships that I was able to form with students during the time that I served as a principal were just incredibly sweet. You know, you have an opportunity to really engage with students in smaller groups and under different circumstances. And I think they may have felt sweeter because so much of your role as a principal, you're getting kind of pulled into the nitty-gritty. You have all of these, legal considerations to do, or you're checking lesson plans or dealing with parent issues. So the moments that you do have to be engaged with kids, to do life with them, to have conversations with them, were just precious. And I do feel like in high school you can have a different level of conversation than you can in elementary. So
Yeah.
I would say I really loved that. And
Now
then
you knew both sides of it though too. You had that lower school and then you went to the upper school experience. So
yeah, absolutely. And I capitalized that, I think, on that because Um, I saw how the younger kids really looked up to the older kids. So I wanted to really take advantage of the K-12 setting. And so we really tried to forge partnerships across the different departments, to say, okay, well, how can we challenge our older students to become role models, and to be more aware of who they are becoming, and then form relationships with these little ones who can then look to them and look up to them. So definitely
absolutely.
the relationships. Yep. Yep.
All
So,
right. Now, at some point, you went from that role, or in there somewhere, you said, "You know what? Let's throw a PhD on top of this,"
oh gosh, yeah.
just
As people do,
as people do, like
Yeah.
for
In a
funsies and whatnot.
in a moment of insanity, yes.
I'll do it. Let's go. All right. So
Yeah.
you added to. When was that? How did you make your choice? What was the spurring? What was the goading on that? Walk us through it.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so, honestly, my decision to, um, pursue my PhD is not a stellar rationale. I'm just gonna warn you. If you're waiting for something that sounds really meaningful and eloquent, it's not gonna happen. The first part is my older brother was always the smarter one in the family. Like every class that I hit and they saw my
Mhm.
last name, they were like, "Oh, is your brother Tom? Oh my word, he's brilliant. He's amazing." And then you could kind of tell that their level of disappointment just kept
Ooh,
increasing as they were
drop off.
exposed to me. Yeah. So I was like, I've got to beat him. So that was part of it. But actually, it was just because I probably love school and I'm always up for a challenge. I wanted to continue to learn. I felt like, honestly, I felt like I wasn't learning enough. I had been in Christian school for a little while, which I found can be a challenge, especially back in the day. Opportunities to continue to grow and to change. And I had this idea that I really wanted to be engaged with new pre-service teachers.
Hmm,
So not just in-service teachers, not just guiding those new teachers that were coming into schools, but getting ahead of that even before they reached our doors. So I
cool.
was like, well, I'm going to get my PhD. Still flawed decision making, but it worked out.
Well, my wife would tell you one of the reasons she went back and got her doctorate was because I got mine. So she was like,
Okay.
that can't be the case. That's
Okay.
not going to happen. There's another reason too, but that one's
Yeah.
so.
So I'm not alone,
Well,
at least.
no, no, we all
Okay.
have skeletons in those closets. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Could you walk us into some of your PhD work? What were you focused on particularly, and talk us through that a little bit?
Sure. I think when I walked into it, I wasn't really sure why I was doing it. I actually got my PhD in curriculum instruction,
mhm.
and I had a few thoughts that going into it. One was I had really tried to establish some healthy spiritual disciplines in my life when I was a principal. I was a late convert. I didn't come to know the Lord until I was in high school, almost 11th grade, and kind of just grew slowly. And when I became a principal, it was like a whole new level of need I need to depend on somebody else for wisdom and clarity and all that. So I had developed some really good spiritual disciplines for the first time in my life. And so when I was going to start my PhD, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do it. I've got 3 kids that range 10, 12 years apart. I've got a spouse at home. I've got a job. I've got to do something. So I just kept looking for opportunities to see how I could really take what I was learning and bring it into the kingdom, right? To see where they would merge, not to just keep it separate and look at, okay, let me think about the reading level of students on screens versus not that that's not interesting,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
but I really wanted to say, how can I keep my relationship with Christ first and foremost? Because when you're doing doctoral work or really any work and you're studying, you just live in it. So I had that in the back of my mind, and then I had this chapel top moment, not a mountaintop moment, a chapel top moment,
Chapel
okay?
top.
Just to be clear. So, I was in chapel, and I was on the second level of our chapel, and I was looking down, and if I'm honest, I was looking down to make sure that some of my little knuckleheads on the basketball team were making choices in their seating this week that would be better than the week before. So, again, it
But
was
you
not
were raised in elevation. So this is actually like a true
Yes.
elevation. Okay.
Literally.
Literally chapel top, like on the second floor,
Chapel
just
top.
peering down,
Gotcha. Looking
like,
down.
okay, they better make the right choices. So
Nice.
so they did. They made the choices and service gets going. And I kind of have just taking it in. To have this moment where I'm thinking, is this a picture of what heaven will be like when we
Mm.
have we're all singing unto the Lord, and there's just all these different nationalities and these different races that are represented, and it's just this sweet moment. And then it was almost like immediately, I don't know if it was my pessimism or what, that just flipped the switch and said, but is this really representative of it? What about these kids? Are they going to be there with you in heaven?
Mm.
And I just kind of kept surveying the crowd, and I was thinking, I don't know. I
Mm.
mean, the reality is we probably know Christian schools, some of our kids are walking the walk, they're talking the talk, but we're not really sure that they've gotten it.
Right.
And
Or
I
yeah. Or if
and I
they
just was
profess
like,
it and then they profess it and then they walk. How many times
yeah,
we see the research coming out and continue to come about how many are stepping away. So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Right.
absolutely. And so but even with that, you just wonder like what's missing? What
Mm-hmm.
part of the anchor didn't grab hold of them, especially these kids who are living in, our schools from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then they walk away from the faith. So I just was like, okay, am I doing everything I possibly can to train up this next generation? Like everything that I can do. I'm in charge of a high school department. I've got all of these kids down here. Am I doing everything academically? Am I doing everything in athletics? Am I doing everything in every aspect of my role to make sure that kids get it, that they're developing a biblical worldview to where they can look at what the world offers and then say, yeah, this doesn't even make sense. I already know truth. Okay. So that's kind of where it started. And as I began to dig into research, into the body of research as a whole, I realized a couple things. One, there's very little that is focused on K-12 schools.
She
As
found the
of
gap.
well, one of the gaps, of course.
One of the gaps.
My professors like you were like, "That's too big of a gap."
Yes. Narrow.
Narrow your topic.
Yeah.
So, I knew I wanted to do K-12, and part of that is because so much of it, the research focuses on post-secondary school. So you're talking about college age, 18 and up, but the reality is I feel like, and I could find some research to support the fact that kids' worldviews, they're a little more solid earlier than that.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to jump in to the K-12 setting. So the little that was there, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, is about teachers. So
Mm.
the teacher has the biggest impact on student learning. The teacher has the biggest impact on a child wanting to come to school. All of these things, the teacher is so, so important. Well, I actually began my teaching career in public school in Title I schools, and I worked in
Mm-hmm.
the public school system for a little while. And in the public school system, the teachers are pretty much at the mercy of a bigger system. And that system is usually pretty complex. There's a lot of experts. There are outside consultants that are coming in, and these decisions are made about curriculum and professional
Sure.
development
Right.
and all of these things.
Mhm.
And that trickle down is what the public school teachers get. And that can be good and that can be bad. In Christian school, what does it trickle up to? Like, if your teacher is the most important thing, can we really say that the teacher is getting everything that they need to be successful, from methods, from training, from support, from where? There's no district. Your principals, your heads of school, they are buried
Mhm.
in the day-to-day grind of what the role entails. And so
Mhm.
I just thought, I don't even know if I can start with teachers. I think I have to start with us. Like, I have to start with, what are we doing to equip our teachers, to engage with our teachers and prepare them so that they can do the work that they need to do in the classroom. So that was a
Hmm.
really long lead in.
Well, we
But a
got there.
good one.
That's what matters, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very good one.
Well,
I'm
thank
just
you.
going through my
So
mind
that is what
I'm going through my mind right now
Go
and
ahead.
everything that would have been. No, just in my mind, I'm going through everything that would have been if I was having that same thought, where I have gone with those thoughts, or if I was, where do I back this up to? Where do I have to start this? Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's kind of where I started, was just to look at how do we lead, and what is the experience of the Christian school administrator. And specifically with that kind of chapel top experience of developing biblical worldview in our students, like to do the things that we say we're doing in our mission statements and our vision statements and our expected student outcomes, all those things that are so beautifully written and hung on our walls and etched into our literature that we pass out. So
Yes.
I dove in and I got to meet with some amazing administrators and have some wonderful conversations with them. And man, I just have such a heart for, uh, those people who are living in that principal role. Um,
Hmm.
I always kind of talk about it like, I give this analogy. They're the ones that are holding the hands of the teachers as they're dealing with the kind of the daily grind of answering a parent email, dealing with a child's discipline issue, maybe just life things that are happening to a teacher. And they're coming to their school leader, to the principal. And so they're holding that end of the school. And then on the other end, they're holding on to their head of school or their school board, and all of these big lofty tasks that are given to them that they need to see living out, lived out in their departments or as in the school as a whole. And there's not a whole lot of support or a whole lot of even definition. It's just like, here's who we want to be. Here's where we want to go. This is what we want out of our program. Make it great. Make it spiritual. Make it fun. Do it. And then on the other hand, you're like wiping tears from your teachers.
Yeah.
And no support in between.
And also, don't mess up, because we will roast you.
Right?
Depending
Yeah.
on who's having that conversation on either side. And that's me being jaded to some extent, but truly, if they are the linchpin in that, if they are the chain in between, they're the one where they're the one going to bear the brunt.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
probably as
It's
much negatively as positively.
super isolating.
Yeah.
Very
Okay,
difficult
so
work.
at some point you transitioned and you moved away. You felt called to move away into Summit Ministries, and again, I know that's where you and Dr. Erdvig have some crossover. So what do you do at Summit? What is your role there? How are you still supporting Christian school principals?
Hmm. Well, so Summit's mission is to equip and support rising generations to embrace God's truth and champion a biblical worldview. So in our department,
Did you have to read that, or did you know it?
I knew most of it. Way to call me out.
Well, I'm just getting ready for our accreditation, where I'm going to say that top of my head, because I'm going to tell everybody else, you have to know this. You have to know this.
Yeah. There's that little guilty thing in the back of your mind where it's like, I must know my institution's mission. So I'm working on it. I'm still new.
No,
So
good.
our
Sorry
department
to mess
in
you up
world,
there. I
that's all
gotta
right.
treat guests nicer than I gotta treat guests nicer than I am right now. But I realized, like, does she know it, or she had to look it up? Because I had to look it up. I had to look up our mission for our podcast, I think, or if I was really
I
You know,
would.
and that's one of those research findings from my research was the institutional claims and having to have those so embedded. But
Ooh,
so yeah, it's a tough one for all of
nice.
us. But so that's what we do then in our department, specifically in worldview education, is that we actually live out that mission in Christian schools all across the country, and actually even overseas. We have a school in Taiwan that we work with. But we do that by equipping and in supporting teachers and school leaders as they equip and support the rising generation to embrace God's truth and to champion a biblical worldview. So we know that as school administrators ourselves, that there's always that list of things that you need to be doing. Like, I should really think through this more. I really need to be more intentional about this. But then you have 60 emails, and then you have somebody calling for you on the radio, and then a student comes in and they're melting down because they got a 0 because they haven't turned in something for 12 weeks. So we get to just really sit and marinate and think about the things that we know we should be doing, and then come alongside administrators and say, let's partner and let's help you out as you go through this one and do some training for you, training for your people. So it's been really just a dream job.
Yeah.
So what kind of training for principals in developing a biblical worldview do you find is helpful as for our Christian schools leaders?
Yep. So we one of the things that we almost require a lot of our schools that do kind of a bigger engagement with us is to do some leadership coaching. And we find again that our leaders are so busy that they don't have a lot of time to just slow down and be reflective, to create some goals for themselves, to think about what they need to do to just kind of move the needle forward a little bit. So we
Mm,
couple that coaching approach with leaders alongside teachings about biblical worldview. So we want to make sure they feel appropriately equipped, but then we also will help them with kind of a leadership framework based on some of the findings that I've found, which really align with a popular leadership theory, which is transformational leadership theory. So it's kind of a very Christian,
mhm.
distinctly Christian version of that. And so we do that coaching with them, and then we really allow the school leaders to kind of guide some of the partnership and the relationship. So if they're trying to work through a better onboarding process, because nowadays we have this new influx of teachers that looks a lot different than the influx of teachers that we had, say, 15, 20 years ago. So a lot of schools are like, I know I need to do something better than what I've been doing to kind of equip them. So we'll come alongside them and we'll look at what they're doing, what their needs are, and help them design a program. Um, and then we do more traditional professional development with teachers to really just, you know, I guess what we want them to do is kind of embrace Kuiper's idea about the fact that there's not a square inch of all of the whole domain of human existence that God doesn't say it's mine. So we want them to approach all of their
Mm,
teaching that way, all of their interactions with their students that way. And so we just try to help them make a step towards that type of immersive biblical worldview environment.
I think that's the biggest thing about biblical worldview because I hit this all the time with the kids, but I'm finding myself now that I'm not in the classroom as much, which is a
mhm.
wonderful thing for a administrator.
Mm-hmm.
But even with the teachers of, we cannot compartmentalize. This is something where okay, yeah, I'll focus in on what God wants, keep him first. But then over in this area, it's just like whatever's convenient, whatever's the most helpful or efficient, or whatever even helps my student the most.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, in all of those boxes, God still has to be first
Mhm.
in all that we do. And
Mm-hmm.
and I, even when we talk about biblical integration, like that makes sense to teachers. Yeah, I'm teaching math, but we can still teach God's order and we can teach all these things. But, even in how they're collecting homework assignments, even how they're grading the papers,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
it's a part of everything that we do and all that we're called to. 1 Corinthians 10:31. I mean, you cannot get past that whether you eat or drink or whatever, and you fill in all
Mm-hmm.
those things that we have to do as building leaders, do it all to the glory of God. So
Mhm.
that is huge. And even just sometimes I might think that our teachers be like, well, biblical worldview training, like, am I not a good Christian?
Mhm.
I just saw one of my friends post on social media that mature Christians are quick to be edified and not quick to be offended. And there was a big instinct of mine that I just wanted to comment. So you're saying I'm not a mature Christian?
Mhm.
If that's going to be
Mhm.
my response, then
Mhm.
there you
Oh
go.
man,
But
I don't think
that's
they've ever
it.
heard of social media. I don't think that whoever said that has never heard of social media. Quick, slow to be offended. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
How are we supposed to
Mhm.
have any conversation on this?
but that's it. Yeah.
But Matt, you bring up such a good point about I think probably the posture that a lot of teachers and even administrators can have. Like we've done this for a long time in Christian
Yeah.
education, and we did a remote training for a school, and one of the sweet teachers there went to her administrator and said, hey, we have this pumpkin painting activity beforehand, and then this biblical worldview thing. But I've done that so many times, and I need to run home, and I don't want to miss the pumpkin painting. So if I could go home during the training,
Uh,
I've already got that covered,
that's when you pull
Um,
out your phone, you record them saying that. Say, I just want you to watch this and think through that just
no,
for
no.
1 second.
That's when you pull out the receipt and say, "Listen, honey, pumpkins
Oh,
were
yeah.
almost free. This wasn't free. Sit down. Sit down. You're going to have yourself tea now. Let's go. Let's go."
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You have thousands of listeners right now. I mean,
Mhm.
millions. Matt,
That's
have we hit the
crazy.
billion mark yet? We're up there somewhere. Also,
Viral.
hi mom. Hi mom. I know you're listening. Good to see you again, mom.
Yes.
Good to see you. Thanks, mom, for
Can you
listening.
watch it twice, Mom, and get me another play?
Yeah, let's go.
Please. How does she know? She knows the tricks. She knows the tricks.
Spotify in the
Okay.
morning, Apple in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
That's right.
Just play on everything. Okay. But you have one thing to tell our Christian school administrative principal audience. You got one thing to
Mhm.
tell them. What do you want to tell them concerning biblical worldview development? Hopefully you prepared for this, so don't get it wrong, because you only got one thing. I don't know what happens to you after you say this, by the way. Like, I don't know if you just become a vacuum or if you're, as I say, jelly on 50. I don't know what happens to you, but this is
Oh,
it.
no.
So
I was
good
wondering if
luck.
it's like a dunk tank thing. Like if you get it wrong, do you just get dropped in the water?
Yeah, I had to do that on Saturday, so
Oh,
that's
he
very
did.
fresh on my mind.
What are
See,
the
the
Still
best part
odds?
recovering
was
from that.
no. The best part was Matt in the wetsuit. That was the best part.
No, no. Mm, mm.
He disagrees politely.
All right, you got one thing. Take it away.
Okay.
Take it.
Well, I feel like the role of a Christian school administrator is really important, but it's difficult. And it's difficult because it's important. And I love what C.S. Lewis says about Christianity. Because if false, it is of no importance, and if true, it's of infinite importance. So the only thing it cannot be is moderately important. So what I would say to Christian school administrators is the work that you do as a Christian school administrator is of infinite importance. So use every opportunity and every aspect that falls under your domain of leadership to lead and shape and interact in a way that reflects the importance of training up that next generation, because it is infinitely important.
Yeah.
All right, get my spear, get my shield. Let's go.
Let's go.
Go.
Let's go right now.
Yeah.
Strap
Yeah.
on the helmet, pull it tight, go through that wall. Let's go.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great. I would have enjoyed your biblical worldview counseling and training if you had ended with that. I would have said yes. That was well worth it. I wouldn't have done very well with my number one thing to say to them. So good job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, unless Matt, you think it was horrible. Did you have another thought, Matt? Would you?
No, I'm speechless. It's that wonderful.
So I would have
She-
survived. I wouldn't have been dunked in the tank then, huh?
Yeah, no.
Absolutely no. You would have hit round two, and you dipped into Sir Lewis. Well done. Also as well. Yes.
How can you not? How can you not?
Well, Maggie, I mean, tell us if we had listeners who were interested in biblical world development through you, like would they actually get you? Would they get somebody under you? Would they get you and Roger? Like if they went and how would they set up some kind of training with Summit Ministries? What would they do?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's Roger and I. So
Okay.
they can reach out. We're trying to figure out how to scale because we just know that there's such a need, and we want to be able to help everybody. But reach out, and our website and Roger's email contact is usually the first step. And there's a couple of resources out there. His book obviously is already out. Talks a lot about what we're doing. There's hopefully a leadership book coming soon, and yes, little teaser, and then lots of other books about specific content areas. So we're trying to get resources out there because it's a tough job, and we just want to support all of you, all of the listeners that are out there that are just doing that important work. So.
All right, Matthew, hit pause on this recording really fast. Maggie, I'm going to ask you if you give me really specific with how we can contact you. Do you need to look that up, or do you got it?
Yeah, I need to look it up.
Look it up really fast. Whichever one, or if you're on Twitter or something like that, whatever you want to give, just
oh man, I am terrible with social media. Roger's like, you have got to get on social media. I'm like, I hate it. I'm working on it. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
No, that's fine. Which whatever, if you would want like an email or something, however my mom would get a hold of you.
Okay, I can do email as well.
Whatever you want to say, it's fine.
And then,
and if you want to promote your book, that's cool. If you want to say, and watch out, New York Times bestseller list coming out in.
Oh my gosh, no pressure. It's still so far down on the reality list still. So, you finished writing a dissertation, you're not really ready to commit to a deadline.
Oh, but in every dissertation, there's at least 3 or 4 articles, right?
Yes, it's true.
And one book. Yeah, so there you go.
There have been a couple articles. Yeah. Okay. Roger has the same response I do. I don't know. Give me your email.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'll come up with some good response here.
All right. That's fine. All right, Matthew, pick it back up. All right, Maggie, let's say we have administrators that want to get a hold of you specifically. Where can they find you? What should they type into their, their email address or whatever it be? How do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can email me. It's maggie.pope@summit.org. They can find me on LinkedIn, and then just visit Summit's website because there's some tools for educators to sign up for some newsletters. We're just getting ready to release teacher directed emails that are specific to Biblical Worldview, and then in just, I think, a few months, we'll be releasing those specific to administrators, just support for administrators as well. So get online, sign up for that, and we'll make sure to get you some tools. So
yeah. Let us know when that comes out. We'll be happy to pass the word for you.
Right,
yeah, I'll make sure I have some reactions to them in shorts.
Yes, that too.
Not like I'm wearing shorts. I might be wearing shorts, but I don't know. But I'll have a reaction to them as short clips online.
Short
I'm done. It's time to be done with this. Short videos. Maggie, it's been great to get to know you today, and it's been great to have you with us. I don't know if this was better than our Roger conversation. We'll let the world decide. But I laughed harder. I was just scared.
I cried less in this one.
Yes.
He made you cry?
It was heavy. Listen, Maggie, it was heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good, though.
I'll be the funny one. He can be the serious one.
Yeah, I don't think I had one time where I had to hang my head in shame either. So thank you.
That's happened. He's hung his head in shame a lot.
I'm glad I could help you with that.
What does Bob the Tomato say? I laughed, I cried, it moved me, Bob. Or is that Larry the Cucumber? We don't have those kind of copyrights anyway. So
that's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Maggie, so much again, and you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Hey, and go Ravens down there in Tampa Bay tonight as they beat up on the Buccaneers.
Just had to throw that in right there at the end, right?
A little bit. That'll be
cut out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
All right, Maggie. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, if you feel free to step away. It has been good to see you and to know you. If there's anything else we can do, and vice versa, please let us know. It's been a blessing to get to know you, what you're doing, and it sounds like you really do love us. So, as far as the community goes, so hey, we want to keep building this community and keep supporting.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I will definitely send things your way just as resources for your people, not as plugs, just because it's a
Yeah,
tough job. So I love the work
it is.
that y'all are doing.
Great.
All right.
All right.
Hey,
Well, nice to meet you.
if you don't mind sharing with us when it comes out, even before, hit
Yep.
up your billions of followers that you don't have on social media, you can't give us the username for. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'll work on that. Oh man.
Well, you better. All
I
right,
know.
Matt,
I know.
you're good. All right,
All
Maggie, thank
right.
you so much.
Thanks.
Matt,
Have a
do you
good
anything?
one.
You too. You
Good.
good? All right, I'm gonna end it. See you guys.